Alright guys, in this tutorial we're going to cover data subsetting. What is data subsetting? Basically, in plain English, what data subsetting is the process of selecting some rows that meet some sort of criteria from a pre-existing data frame. That's basically it, okay? So there may be scenarios in which you're working with big data sets that they have probably thousands and thousands of rows. Maybe you want to focus analysis on some of those rows that meet some criteria, okay? So if you want to take a deep dive on those rows, before you actually start doing that analysis, you need to select those rows, okay? So, and that's what we're going to discuss in this tutorial, okay? So we're going to go over two different approaches that you may consider to select some rows from a pre-existing data frame that meet a specific criteria. Okay, so again, we're gonna use the same data file from the previous tutorial. So we are importing pandas, we are reading the data from the CSV file, creating a data frame called df, and then we're printing the head. Okay. Just for illustration purposes, let's say we're interested in taking a look this column called start price, okay? And then again, that has to do with the listing start price, okay? So if I want to access, that column, I just need to type the name of the data frame followed by start price, right? And then if I run this command, so then it prints the values that are stored there. And if I want to quickly get the summary statistic associated to that column, I just do that describe, and then boom. So here we have the summary statistics associated to start price. Okay, so we can quickly see that the median start price was 1, the 75 percentile is 50, and the maximum value is 414. Okay, so let's say for some reason I want to take a very specific look at, for example, at items that they were listed with, for example, with a start price greater than 300, for example. Okay, so selecting items with start price greater than 300, for example. Okay, so we can do the following. Okay, so the first approach is you start by typing the name of the data frame, square brackets. Okay, and between the square brackets you need to enter what is going to be the selection criteria. In this case, the selection criteria is I want items that has a start price greater than 300, and then we need to enter that selection criteria between the square brackets. So then df start price. So up to that point, I access the start price column. Now, what is going to be the criteria that I want to use to select the columns is the start price has to be greater than 300. So if I run this, now I see, well, all the columns in which the start price is greater than 300. So we see this one is 329, 329, 309, and so on. Okay, and if we scroll, yeah, if we want to know how many of those or how many rows we have that meet this particular criteria, so then you just do shape, and then there are 39 columns. So then 39 items that were listed with a start price greater than 300. Okay, so this is just one approach. Again, you start by typing the name of the data frame, square brackets, and between the square brackets you enter the selection criteria. Another way is to do the following. So is to use query. Okay, so selecting items with start price greater than 300. So df that, so we can use the query command, and basically that will allow us to use, if you're familiar with SQL, so it would allow you to use some of those, queries in some sense from SQL. So df query and then parentheses, and between the parentheses we need to enter the selection criteria in quotes. So then in this case is start price greater than 100, and that's it. Okay. Oh, well, let me fix this. 300, right? So greater than 300. Here are the rows, and if I just print ahead again, so we see that we have the exact same value. So you can use the square bracket notation to do data subsetting, or you can also use that query, and then but the syntax is going to be slightly different. Okay, so that's basically, you know, how you can select some rows that meets a specific criteria that you may be interested in. Now, can I combine in some sense, can I combine selection criteria? So meaning that, okay, start price greater than 300, and for example, the selling price was greater than the average selling price for that category. The answer is yes. Okay, so then when it comes to selection criteria, it's just you can have one selection criteria and you can have a combination of selection criteria. Okay, so selecting items with start price greater than 300, and what is the name? Let me scroll all the way to the right, and GMS greater than average equals to 1. Right. So then that means again that this particular product, okay, that the selling price was greater than the average selling price in that category, and we can easily see that, right? Because the selling price for that item was $349, and the average selling price for items in that category was $221. Okay, so let's go over the first approach first. So then we start with the square bracket notation. So df, and then df start price. Let me be consistent with double quotes. Start price greater than 300. Now, something that you need to be careful, especially if you're combining two or more logical statements in Python, you need to keep track of parentheses. So you can first you enter this in parentheses, and then for logical and is the ampersand symbol. And then here is df GMS greater ABG equals to equality in Python is double equal. And then let's run this. Okay. All of these are the observations in which the start price was greater than 300 and the selling price was greater than the average selling price for that category. Okay, so let's focus on the head of that so we can see. Yes, so GMS greater than average equals to 1. Okay, so this is how you can create more complex logical expressions by combining them with ands and ors, and you can use them for data subsetting purposes. Keep in mind that you can also accomplish the same using query. Okay, so let's copy the same comment here, df query, and then parentheses now in quotes, start price greater than 300 and GMS greater the average equals to 1 and head, and we got the exact same result. Okay, so these are the two common approaches that you need to keep in mind if you want to subset a data frame. Okay, so either you use the square bracket notation, but keep in mind that between the square brackets you need to enter the selection criteria, which in this case is the start price is greater than 300, or you can use query, which is very similar, but then the syntax is slightly different. So then parentheses, and then in quotes you need to enter the selection criteria. Okay, and yeah, and then you can combine logical expressions with ands or ors and so on. All right, that's all I have for this video, and see you on the next one.